So let's begin. Today's topic is about swing trading, and I want to make this really educational. Yes, we will be using Deepvue for it, but I kind of want to cover, a little bit more from an educational side. Then we'll get into screening. Then we'll get into how I use Deepvue for swing trading and the screens that I run. And then along the way, we'll answer all your questions. So the recording of this will be available if you can't sit around for the next hour. That's perfectly fine. The recording will be sent out to your email that you signed up with or registered with for this webinar. So with swing trading, one of the things, if we take everything back to the basics and kind of forget everything we know, with swing trading, we're really looking for two things, right? As swing traders, we want momentum in the markets. We love volatility. While some will say we don't like volatility, but you want momentum, which is directional in nature. It could be to the upside, it could be to the downside, whether you're going long or short. And you want volatile names. Volatility means things that are moving up a lot, things that are moving down a lot. And momentum and volatility really drive, a stock moving 30%, 50% in a short span of time, either to the upside or the downside. The second thing is when we swing trade the markets, we're essentially trying to time in some way, shape, or form the momentum shift that happens while a stock is going up or down, right? So for us to do that, we need to define risk. So if we could define risk on names that show high momentum, show high volatility when they move up or down in the markets, then we could profit from the markets really, really well. So the name of the game when it comes to swing trading is defining your risk on stocks that outperform the markets, that have a high beta as one of their, how we can measure volatility or how a stock behaves relative to the market. And how can we place our stops, define our risk really, really well so that when we're wrong, we get out. And when we're right, we see a large gain. And when we repeat that process over and over and over and over again, it will result in a positive or trending equity curve, right? So with swing trading, that's really the what we're trying to do is we're trying to find momentum, directional momentum, could be up or down. We love volatility, but volatility in a way that if this name were to go, it's going to really trend in the direction that we want. And there's no point for us to sit here and trade things like utilities or real estate names, especially if you're trading the US markets, where they don't have high beta or they don't exhibit this momentum up or down. So one of the first things that you want to do when you're swing trading is have a clear picture of why and what the purpose is. What are you trying to find in the markets? And what is the universe of stocks that you're trying to trade? So if we get into, let's say, building any screen, right? The first thing that I would be doing is defining the universe, right? What are the type of stocks that I really want to trade in the markets? So most of the time, you'll see traders say, I don't trade biotech in the US markets because they are highly correlated with news events. You can wake up and the FDA disapproves something and the stock just goes from 30 bucks to $1, right? You'll hear some folks say, I only trade equities. I don't trade ETFs. I don't trade 3-time ETFs. Whatever it is, just have some clarity on which universe you want to operate in. And once you have that, that becomes the basket that you're kind of trading, right? The area of the market that you really want to excel at. So one of the common things in all of my screens is the fact that I trade, common stocks or ADRs. And you'll see this in many of the presets that we have in Deepvue. And this is a bucket of, to define that, hey, this is the area of the market that I want to operate in, and this is how I want to swing trade the market. If you if you want to take some, if you want to take um, if you don't want to define your universe, for example, and you just want stocks that exhibit all of these, you're fishing in a that's way too big, and it will distract you a lot. You'll find the right characteristics that you're looking for, but in the wrong names. So that's really step one, is to define the universe that you want to operate within. Second is, how do we define momentum? How do we define how stocks move up? How do we define how things are tightening? How do we define patterns, basically, from a technical perspective? So if we look at stocks that we want to trade, and some examples that come to mind is something like an Apple, right? Something like an Apple may not move up 1,000%, 100%, things of that nature, but it's highly correlated with the market, right? So one of the first parameters that you could start looking into is the beta of a stock, or how float plays a key role, how market cap plays a key role, how average daily range, ADRs and ATRs play a role. So a lot of momentum traders or swing traders that you will learn from or watch or get educated from will always point you to these really specific parameters. Could be ADR, average daily range, over a span of time, which is again a measure of how much does a stock move up and down in a single day in terms of percentage. Uh, you'll see stocks that have lower floats, let's say less than 200 million in terms of shares that are available in the market to trade, will likely have higher percentage gains, because if they have float turnover, right? Float turnover meaning the stock is trading more than the available, number of shares in the market. The price is going to move faster because for every buyer there's a seller, things of that nature. So that's another parameter. The third is, you'll see, some folks try to avoid stocks that have market cap of $1 trillion or more. They want to operate within a certain market cap because they want potential growth stories. They want companies that have growing triple-digit sales, that have a developing story in the market, that have potential catalysts that will come up so that price can increase tenfold, 20-fold, and 30-fold. So the next thing I defined in my scans is, from a volatility perspective, what are you looking for, right? And there are many data points that you could really go to. One of the first ones I would say you guys need to study is float. Float is a very basic measure of what is available in the markets. And, you can have something say, show me all stocks that have a float of less than 200 million. And now you've narrowed down your universe from 12,000 stocks to already 4,500 stocks, right? You could say that I'm not interested in companies that are trading above, $1 trillion in market cap. So I could say, give me market caps that are less than basically 1,000. So you do that, and you've halved your universe again. Now, if we go back to the topic that we're discussing today, the topic is how do you swing trade the markets? And swing trading is about momentum, directional momentum, volatility, but we'll get into how you find those tight areas as they form on volatile or momentum stocks. The next thing that you could define is something like average daily range. So when I started out trading, this is a concept that a lot of traders don't tend to use, but average daily range, let's say on a 14-day basis, what it represents, let's talk about what it represents first before we plug it in. So if Apple is trading up and down on a particular day, what is the average range from the high with respect to low, or from the low with respect to the close of the day? So if it's moving up and down, and there's a difference in definition here between ADR and ATR, true range versus daily range. One uses high and low, the other uses low and close. And you average those up, over the last, let's say 14 days, and you get a number and you say, what people say is, hey, ADR, is on average 2% for this particular stock. So what all that means is on average, the stock moves up or down 2% over the last 14 days. Now that gives you a measure of how volatile a name is intraday, right? And what it's doing when the market opens to market close on a single bar basis. And I hope that makes sense. So having that clarity on why you're scanning for what you're scanning for really makes a world of difference. So let's say we're looking for stocks that are, over the last 14 days when the market opens and closes, their range intraday is at a minimum 2% or more. Now, what that will do is it will narrow your universe down again. Some people can make this 4%. We can make this, even greater. Now, that depends on personal preference. How much can you stomach in terms of volatility intraday? And how, as you build experience, you could stomach more volatility. You could trade more volatile names over a span of time. But this again gives you a measure of which universe do you want to operate in. That's what you have to define first for you to really be a really good swing trader. Now, we discussed, these are some of the data points that I'm just pointing out that exists for you to kind of narrow down your universe. I think that's really the first step for you to do anything that you could possibly be doing in the market. So the next is, and a lot of you are here and curious about, how do you find tight stocks? How do you, I want to scan for a setup and I just want to trade a setup, right? So we'll get into that kind of next. Before we do that, momentum in the markets is defined by a couple of things. Direction of the market becomes important. Some will argue it may not be important. That is for you to decide. The sector or the industry the stock is trading in. So if a lot of stocks in the China group have gone up in the United States a lot more recently, you want to be part of that momentum, right? A sector driven or an industry driven move will push the stock that you're in a lot further. And if the market is pointing the same way, the industry is pointing the same way, you have a well-defined setup and that triggers to the upside, you have all the ingredients that you really need to see directional momentum to the upside or the downside. We've seen these moves in some of the very, even penny stocks you'll see, or GME or AMC type of moves. These are theme-based moves, right? So you want to be aware of the theme that the market's showing. There will be times where biotechs as a whole are going up, or healthcare is going up, or marijuana stocks are going up, and you want to key in that element as well. And that element is not something that you can just put into a scanner, but you need that awareness of what the market is doing, and that comes from your daily routine. So I want to be clear that what we're scanning for also doesn't negate all the other things that you need in trading. So let's get into some of how trend is defined. So one way you could define trend is through moving averages. So let's say if the market is above the 21-day moving average, that's a uptrending market. And you could define trend, that's a personal definition that you could define for yourselves. If the market is trending below the 21-day, then you could say that, hey, this is a market that I don't want to personally operate in, and it's a downtrending market for me. So with respect to stocks, what you could do is you could define trend as price versus SMA or EMA, essentially. And what that means is, I think I zoomed in a little too much, but what that really means is, let's say I want to see all stocks, on average, people say, hey, I never trade stocks below the 200-day. I never trade stocks below the 50-day. But let's say, we define our universe as, I want to only see stocks that are above the 50-day. Now we add that, and now we're down to 700 names from 14,000 names. So a lot of these characteristics that we continue to put in will give us a universe of stocks that we feel we can swing trade, right? Next, I would say is once you gain more experience in the markets, what will happen over time is you will steer yourself to more liquid stocks. And liquidity can be defined as how much volume a stock trades or how much average dollar volume a stock can trade. So that becomes a very important point when you're trying to define what type of stocks that you will trade. So if we take a look at volume, you could define it as average volume. So on average, a stock trades 250,000 shares or more. That's one way of doing it. And then the other way of doing it is average dollar volume. Average dollar volume hones in on, how much does a stock trade? 10 million a day. And dollar volume is just the price of the stock and the total shares traded. And average dollar volume is that average over a span of last 20 days, last 50 days, etc. So if we define, let's say, show me very liquid stocks, because if I'm wrong, I want to sell my shares and get out. I don't want to wait for a buyer on the other end to show up, and I don't want to be in illiquid stocks in the market. So that's the other parameter. If we add in, we'll get, we're starting to get really, we went from 700 to that, mostly because we said we want stocks that are really, really, really low at that. So intraday. So if we do that to 2, it will update that. It will increase the bucket. So average dollar volume on, on a 20-day basis of 10 million, you could do 20 million, 10 million, and that's a number that you could play around with to, again, define the universe that you want to operate within. So these are some of the things that you want to define when you're screening the markets with respect to swing trading and the type of stocks that you want to operate in. If we go through many of these results, and some of you might be familiar with these names, these will be really volatile names. And the next step is to find tight areas. So we'll discard that. And I really wanted to cover that because it's really key for you guys to understand as to, defining the universe you want to operate in before you get into really screening and how you want to screen the markets. So some of the presets that we have, and one of the key data points that we've configured into Deepvue is if we look at relative measured volatility under screener presets, call that volatility contraction pattern. So what we've configured is RMV. So RMV is a way for you to define. So after you've defined your universe, right? I want to trade within common stocks. I want prices of those stocks to be greater than 5. I want those stocks to be above the 50-day, right? I want the ADR to be more than 2% on those stocks, and the average dollar volume to be 5 million or more. These characteristics are basically how you define your universe. The next step to that is how do I find the tight stocks within those, that particular scan? And that's where RMV comes into play. So we'll go over RMV now. So I've loaded the VCP screen that we have in Deepvue. If we go over some of these results, you'll start to find setups that are starting to get really, really tight with respect to their recent price action to themselves. Now, this stock won't just spit out straight VCPs, but you could see something like this is starting to tighten and form a pivot and really creating a tight area. And if it triggers above the top side of this, it could go to the upside. Now, some of these stocks as you trade, you'll know the history of them. Some of them you'll say, okay, I traded this before. It doesn't really fit my pattern of trading. So RMV in Deepvue defines how tight a stock is relative to itself. The closer RMV gets to 0, the tighter the stock is as well. So what I've done is I've also added the DV technical patterns indicator, and I've plotted RMV to look back on a 15-day period. And the lower the RMV, closer to 0, the tighter the stock is relative to itself on a 15-day basis. And I've plotted those as kind of these diamonds that you see underneath price action. So we're scanning for RMV on a 15-day basis, less than 10. We've plotted it on our charts as well. And you can see, if you were to scan for some of these, so CORT right in this area was getting really, really tight above the moving averages, did pull in on big volume. But if you were to wait for that setup, it would trigger to the upside, potentially, allowing you to operate in this range, or it would show up in the universe of stocks that you're trading as well. And that goes to the upside. So we could also add RMV to the columns in Deepvue. So I just want to show, if we add RMV on a 15-day basis, you could add it as a column. And if we sort by RMV, it will show us all stocks that are relatively tight to themselves with a RMV of 0. So as we go through this, it gives you a really, really, really easy way of building a set of, basically a watch list of stocks that are tightening up relative to themselves. And if you're a Deepvue subscriber already, or you have a Deepvue account, you could go under screener presets. If you just search up volatility, VCP, we've set it up so that it's pre-made for you and you could duplicate it as well. So that's RMV and how you could you scan for stocks that are tightening up, and you'll see a lot of, as we go through this, a lot of, something like this, you've scanned for this. So it's higher lows and it's starting to consolidate. The RMV is less than 10. And now we have a topside pivot. If it triggers about 15, this can really go again, right? So as you go through this, it makes it really, really easy for you to find these tighter patterns as well. So the next thing that I do want to cover is kind of how I use Deepvue for swing trading. So this screener preset is available. How RMV is calculated, we want to keep that within this, within Deepvue. So we haven't publicly shared this calculation. That's more of like a business type of thing, but it's designed so that we can find tight stocks really, really quickly. Now, the next thing I really want to cover is kind of how I use Deepvue for swing trading. So that gives you guys, a scope of like how I approach things and how I've set them up. So one of the first screens that I run on a daily basis in Deepvue for my trading is the HV screen. So you guys have probably heard buyable gap ups, power earning gaps, EPs, earning gap ups, EGUs. All of that boils down to a certain characteristic that people are looking for in the markets, and that is basically high volume and the stock gapping up. Now, it can have a news catalyst, it could have an earnings catalyst, it could have any type of characteristic, but what we defined it as in Deepvue is HV. So I break it down into highest volume in a year, highest volume ever, highest volume since IPO, and highest volume since last earnings. Those are the 4 types of gap ups I'm looking for, or the 4 types of volume I'm looking for in the markets to define a gap up in the markets that I potentially would want to trade at some point in time. So the HV screen in Deepvue, there's a preset for it as well. So if you go under screener presets, just search up HV, you'll see that screen. And this is one of my go-to screens that I run every single day. So if we go over the screen itself, first is, again, I'm defining a universe that I want to operate within. So I want common stocks trading above $5. The percentage on the day that they're gapping up, the price percent change is greater than 0, and the average dollar volume is greater than 5 million. The second group is any of these conditions being true, I want those things to show up on my screen. So this is one of the screens that I use on a daily basis. When the market closes, I scan through this. I have it up on my dashboard, which we'll go over shortly. And I'm going through these stocks every day to see which ones could potentially meet, the criteria of what I would want to trade in the markets. So it's the same screen. We have what we call a EP screen by Quality Maggie. So if I search top traders, sorry, should be right here. So this EP screen, you guys might have learned it through this way, is the exact same thing, but it's looking for price percent change greater than 7.5% or more, closes greater than higher day yesterday. The dollar volume is 100 million more, very liquid stocks. for that particular day, and the universe is the common stocks and ADRs. So that is another way of defining this. I've broken it down into 4 ways that I define it. Whichever way, it's looking for kind of the same thing and how stocks gap up and which gap ups you want to trade. The second screen that I'm running pretty much every day for my routine is the tight range. And we'll go over what tight range is. If I go to edit filter, you'll see it's looking for stocks that are tightening up. So RMV, uh, again, liquidity criteria, market caps, very liquid stocks. I operate with, I want tight stocks that are above $1 billion. I review those mostly because of my portfolio size. I want them to be above 50-day type of that, type is common stock, and last is greater than 5. So that is another screen that I'm running. If we go over some of these results, you guys will see it's really good at finding stocks that are tightening up, and it's really a setup based screen. And I take these stocks and put them on my focus list or other lists that I maintain. That's a topic for another day. The third screen that I'm running is absolute strength 1 month. So one of the other things that we have with respect to swing trading in Deepvue is absolute strength. So absolute strength is how a stock has performed over a span of time. And this absolute strength 1 month screen looks for, give me the biggest percentage winners over the last month, and they're the top 20% in the market. So the absolute strength score is greater than 80 with a little bit of liquidity criteria. And I like to review these, and these are some of the top performing stocks in the markets as to how, relative to other stocks as well. So these give, this basically gives me new themes that are coming in, and the, stocks that are turning to the upside, or rotation that's happening from one group that was hot to another group that is now performing over the last month. And the absolute strength rating is essentially a price percent change of all stocks, and then you compare all those stocks to the other stocks that we have in the database, and we give it a score, which we call the absolute strength score. So this is more of a rotational, what's working, that's great, but what is about to work in terms of rotation as well. And I'll paste I see a lot of questions about pasting the links. So this is the HV screen. I'll paste it in the chat. When you click that link in Deepvue, it will open up the platform, and you can import it with the same criteria as well. So tight screen. I'll paste all these links right now. Sorry about that. And the absolute strength screen as well. So if you're already in Deepvue, you have an account, you click these links, you can import the exact same screens that I have over here. Now, going back to swing trading and how to kind of build a universe, the second thing that you want to do is really hone in on model book stocks. I think, if you study stocks that have gone up 50%, 60%, or more than the S&P 500 or more than the NASDAQ, you'll start to pick up characteristics of what good stocks are doing, and really align your trading and how you scan the markets with those. And for that, we've created the model book stocks scan. And essentially what it looks for is, again, stocks within a certain universe of, common stocks or ADRs, percentage change of $15 or more, and the price percent change year to date is greater than 50%. So these are all stocks that have gone up 50% or more this year that you want to study and kind of gather the common characteristics from. So something like ASTS, if you want to catch this screen will give you all the percentage gainers. Yeah, so this screen will give you all the percentage gainers, and for you to study as well. And that's how you really become a good swing trader, is by studying what's gone up and studying why it's gone up from a price perspective, from a volume perspective, let's say from a news perspective, things of that nature. So that is something else that's available for you guys. And I think that's a really key part of studying the markets. So we've created that. model book stocks scan. This is something that, you could do weekly, quarterly. I would recommend, at least once or twice a month would be great. So the next thing is I'll take a few questions. We'll pause here. Maybe we'll answer some of these, and then I'll continue with what I've kind of planned. So the first question is, okay. What what kind of timeline are we saying for swing trading in this context? So timeline for swing trading would be, something that you hold for 15 to 20 days or 30 to 45 days, but that timeline is dictated by the stock. So if you enter a stock, you won't know it, it will trigger your buy rules, and then if it trends above the MAs, you just let it be, and it will stop you out when it triggers your sell rules. So there's no, the timeline is dictated by the stock. Now, on average, you obviously want to be in trades for a minimum of 10 to 15 days. Those will be your highest percentage gainers. You'll have a lot of losers when it comes to swing trading when it hits your stop, right? Stop loss. And those trades would be, how you define your stop loss. So 2% below your buy point, 4% below your buy point. And that's all kind of personal preference. So it's hard to pinpoint and say, okay, this swing trading is 8 days you'll hold it, 11th day you have to sell it, things of that nature. So it's not that clearly defined. Can you describe the moving averages on your screen? So in Deepvue, we have a Deepvue key moving averages indicator where you could define the intraday, daily, weekly, and monthly moving averages. The daily, I have the 10, 21, and the 50 SMA, and I am on a daily chart. And on the weekly, I have the 10 and the 40 activated. I rarely use the monthly charts. And when I'm on the intraday, I rarely am on intraday charts other than the 65-minute for the most part. So those are the moving averages that I use. Do you look at ADR when you trade earnings? That's a really good question. I don't look at ADR when I'm trading. I don't trade earnings, but if I want to anticipate how much the earnings move will be, I look at implied volatility. So implied volatility is what the options market is projecting the move might be to the upside or the downside for a particular stock. That just gives me a good idea of what I can expect in terms of volatility. So if my cushion on a name when I enter, let's say at $50, and I have 20%, a 20% gain, and the option market says that we expect a volatility of 10 to 15% on this, I'm still going to be profitable, hoping that, it's not a complete disaster. So earnings are binary events. You never know what's going to happen. But I think implied volatility is a much better measure of what may happen on earnings than ADRs. Are there any presets for DV available? I recall there's a universe list. So the Deepvue presets that we have, if you go to screener presets, you go under Deepvue. These are all the screens that we've created, and these are ones by our team. That includes the tight range screen, which again uses RMD. Includes the Deepvue leaders and the Deepvue universe. The universe screen is a basket of stocks that we feel are liquid and could be potential or future market leaders, or characteristics that market leaders have exhibited before they became market leaders. So that is one that you want to key in on as well, Peter. Can you scan for stocks crossing above a moving average 2 bars ago? That will be doable in about a couple of weeks from today when we release a formula builder very similar to TC2000 or other platforms. That will give us full capabilities of comparing today to any other day, or having one moving average crossover another moving average in terms of time shift and all those capabilities. What is the best way to screen stocks in a specific industry group? So that's a great question. So for us to know if a stock is in a top industry group, what you guys can do is create a data panel. So if we go over the data panel now, and I'll share mine as well. So this is the data panel that I have. I'll paste the link to this as well because we'll get a lot of questions. So my data panel. I've pasted the link to my data panel as well. So these are the key data points that I look at pretty much. So we recently added sub-industry rankings. So right now, home builders are the first one. Forest products from a sub-industry perspective is the first one. So let's say I'm looking at a stock. A good one right now would be CART. If I take a look at CART, it's starting to tighten. It's starting to flag. The volume is drying up, right? And it's not in one of the top industry groups, right? So as you go through and build your focus list, you can really hone in on which ones are part of the top industry group, which ones aren't, if that's a key part of your strategy. It has about 260 million float, like we spoke about. The market cap's not too high. It's a couple billion. From the ADR on a 20-day basis, it is pretty volatile intraday. So it moves up and down about 3.5% when it's trading, and it's flagging out. So this is something, the RMV is less than, so we got that RMV dot. So it's starting to shape up in terms of a setup. So we got big volume to the upside, consolidation on declining volume. That's a setup that you want to pay attention to right above, if it gets about 41 on volume as well. So you can add the industry ranks. Sorry, that was the question. You could add the sub industry ranks on a 1 month, 3 months, 1, 3, 6, 9, and 12-month basis, and that will tell you if it's one of the top industry groups or not. Kevin, can you explain each of the colored volume bars is telling us? Yes. So one of the indicators that you could add to Deepvue is the DV enhanced volume. So this particular indicator is what I have at the bottom of my chart. And now what this tells us is basically three things. The up volume is blue, the down volume is pink. If it's a pocket pivot, it will color it this green. And if it's a reverse pocket pivot, which is the opposite of the pocket pivot definition, it will color it orange. If you don't know what a pocket pivot is, just go to YouTube, type pocket pivot trader line. We have a video on that, or pocket pivot Deepvue. There's a lot of resources explaining exactly what a pocket pivot is. Does RMV equal VCP? In other words, does a diamond signify a VCP? No. The diamond doesn't signify VCP. The diamond signifies that the stock is now trading relatively tight to itself on a 15-day basis, and it becomes an area that you really want to pay attention to. So if a stock is, the cart came down and then consolidated for a few days, it got really tight in this area. Now the bet that you place is that it's consolidating, and if it triggers to the upside from this area, I can define my risk really, really well. So RMV represents areas of tightness for a stock and how it's trading. So this dot that we got when we added the DV technical patterns, underneath we got a diamond, represents that the stock is tightening relative to itself. So it's flagging, but the diamond really gives us quantifiable information that it is really tight towards itself, as to how it was trading over the last 15 days. And that's what it signifies. It doesn't signify this is now a VCP pattern. So that's the key difference. You don't want to mix up RMV with, this is a VCP or this is not a VCP. How do you get the X's to show up? I think I just answered that. So if you add Deepvue technical patterns, you go to inputs, you turn on the relative measured volatility. I have the inputs of 15 and the RMV being less than 10, and that's how these diamonds show up. And to get the diamonds, I went to style, and I went to relative measured volatility, and I turned these into a diamond, and I put the setting to below bar. Now that just gives me visual confirmation of if a stock is tight relative to itself. There's a question on where is AS 1 month found. So if we go to the screener, the criteria is available under proprietary ratings. If you go, just scroll down to performance ratings, and we have AS rating and the days drop down. This is how you can scan for, if I want over the last month, all stocks with the absolute strength rating being above 80, I get about 1,900 stocks. So these are the top 20%. This is the top 20% of the market in terms of price percentage gain. and you could define your universe around that. So if we add, type of only common stocks, you will narrow that down even more, right? So we're now at about 1,100 stocks. You could add liquidity criteria, but these are the top performing stocks in the market. On the data panel, I could see the full description of some of the fields. That's just a comment, not a question. Is there an indicator in Deepvue to identify buy and sell volume? No, I think anybody telling you that they can identify buy and sell volumes are likely just dishonest. In terms of knowing if a volume is, a buy or a sell, there are some things that you can look at in terms of level 2 and people parse them out, but there's always a huge uncertainty around, if someone's definitively telling you that buy volume is greater than sell volume, it's as good as, my guess if I were to quantify and put a couple of math formulas up on it. So that's usually when people say buy volume versus sell, they're looking at the volume on the bid or the volume on the ask, and they might market it a little bit differently. But we don't have that in Deepvue yet. When we do have it, we will call it volume on the bid and volume on the ask. If we do call it buy and sell, we will still explain it to you as to how we calculated this buy or sell volume. Okay, are you planning to add journaling to the platform to track stats? Yes, that's part of the plan. That is definitely part of the plan. We have completely scoped out exactly what we want to do with the journaling module, and that is something that we will be working on starting in Q4, but likely releasing in Q1 next year. Can I screen for stocks with multiple gap ups which have not been closed? No, I think you can scan for stocks with gap ups that, that are gaps today. But I don't think you can scan for stocks that haven't closed their gaps. That I will write down as something to take away and see if we can make it happen. Gap ups that have not closed. So I'll write that down and I'll follow up on that if we can include that capability. Any updates on launching in India or European Union? So India will likely still happen later on this year. We're actively just working on that. I don't have a date in mind. We want to aim for this year or Q4 this year. Worst case is Q1 next year. So we will be launching there. It's just a matter of if. It's not a matter of if, it's a matter of when. I've tried to use the Maggie screen, but I always go in too late. Again, that is, if you want to learn his tactics, I'm assuming he has a lot of resources that are available. The screen that we built here was based on what he looks for. Again, screening does not guarantee that you'll be in early or late. You'll have to learn his tactics and how he approaches the market. Okay. Is there a screen to find stage 2A stocks or early 2A? Yes. There is stage analysis built into Deepvue. So if I go to a new screen, I just type in stage. Let's do that. Stan Weinstein stage analysis pops up, and we have 1, 1A, 2, 2A, 3, 3A, 4, and 4B minus. And it's as simple as saying 2A. And these are all the stocks that are in stage 2A, which is early stage 2. And when we do expand to new markets, the same calculation will come to, let's say, if we go to India or Australia or the Canadian markets, when we do add them, that will be available as well. But yes, you can scan for all stages. We've done quite a bit of work on this, and I think we recently updated some of the definitions as well while working with Stan. Are you able to add relative volume as a column? That's a really good question. That's something I didn't cover. So let's say we have a setup in the markets, and that was one thing I wanted to cover. So if I go, let's say, look at ASTS, it was one of the best trades I've made this year. So if it gaps up and you're starting to define a pivot, so we see these RMV pivots that are showing up, it's starting to tighten versus itself. The stock is starting to move up, and let's say we pick this day and we're watching this pivot right around the HVC or the highest volume close on this particular day. So as the stock's moving over, you can add run rate as a column, or you can add relative volume as a column. So if I type in run rate, it's available on a 20 and 50-day basis. And if I add relative volume, it's also available as well on a 20 and 50-day basis. These are updated real time to the tick when the market opens. And some of the momentum trading or volume-based trading that people do is also based on high relative volume, or something like TC2000 calls that volume buzz. So that is also available. Awesome. So we don't have implied volatility in the platform just yet. We will in the future. We don't have that yet. That's something that we need to get into Deepvue. Is there a functionality to replay in Deepvue? We don't have a functionality to replay bars in Deepvue just yet. Your best bet right now would be going back in time and then using the arrow to unhide bars. That's what we have right now. It is something that we will make part of our journaling module, or our main chart component in the future. Where will you post a specific webinar? It will be posted on YouTube and emailed out when it's available. Also, if you're in Deepvue already, you go to the education tab, you go to events, and you'll see all the prior events that we've done. You click on it, it will open up that video. Is Deepvue beginner friendly? Is there anywhere we can ask questions where we're members to help with learning? So we have educational webinars, about 2 or 3 webinars a month. We have bi-weekly onboarding sessions for you to learn the platform as well. And we talk a lot about swing trading, the data points that we put out, the indicators that we put out. There's a whole YouTube channel with about 40 videos now that you could go and watch. So it's very beginner friendly. And if you are a beginner, highly recommend you check out TraderLion. The co-founders of TraderLion are the same folks that built Deepvue. So there's a lot of educational material on that side. Okay, we don't have, yeah, I already answered that. Can you display the 10-week MA on the daily chart? We don't have that just yet. We have wanted to turn it on. It will be turned on very soon. But that's something that we continue to work on as well. I already described the diamonds underneath the charts. I'm trying to get through as many questions. I'm trying to go top down. So I get that some of folks are saying you're not answering mine. I will get to it as I go down this list. How's your method of swing trading similar to Oliver's as well? So Oliver defines things as a price cycle. If you want to learn that, just Google price cycle mastery, Oliver Kell. It's a really good resource that we put together on the TL side. My trading method is quite different from his. I'm looking for HVs, looking for tight areas. I'm doing very edge-based screening. And I have these 1 or 3 edges in the markets that I stay within. Oliver's price cycle is kind of based on, you pick up some of the top stocks in the market showing the biggest, strength, and he trades those within his price cycle that he's defined. So I was a very, very different from mine. Okay, let's go to some of the recent questions. Can you scan for pre and post market? Yes, we do have scans for pre and post market. If you go to screener presets and you go to pre and post, you could scan for pre-market movers and post-market movers as well. Is relative volume displayed in watchlist columns? Is relative volume percent at the same time? Yes, it's time of day relative volume. So if I were to go here, I should probably show the columns. You can add relative volume as a column, right? Or you could add run rate as a column. So one's a percentage and the other is not a percentage. So these are all added here, and they are available as columns as well. Okay, Doug, I will try to find your question and answer that. Don't want to upset you. Will the watch list scanner or scanner alert feature be introduced? Sometimes the biggest issue is not being able to catch the movements of stocks on the watch list early. I believe this problem could be partially solved if watch list scanning or scanner alerts are implemented. We do have alerts in terms of price alerts and trend line alerts that you could set to alert yourself on the movement of a stock. I think what you're asking for is as new stocks are added to a screener, you want to receive an alert. And if I'm wrong, do let me know. Um, will the watch list scan? But we will have the ability for you to scan your watch list that will be rolled out very soon. We will also roll out as new stocks come in, probably a notifications type of module, could be an extension of our alerts module. Both of those things don't exist. Our first step is to give you the capability to screen your watch list. That's going to happen first. And then likely second will be as new stocks get added. As new stocks get added, you could get notified or something of that nature. I've saved the data panel, but don't see it as a saved item. Where did it go? So all your shared data panels should show up when you save them. So when you open the shared link that I just shared, there will be a bar, a blue bar that shows up right there. And then you click add, you name it whatever you like and you add it. And it should show whatever name you gave it. It should show up in your dropdown, in your data panels dropdown under saved data panels. Okay, real-time indicator for above average volume. We have that right here. I think it's called Zanger volume ratio. I think this one is for intraday charts, and it's essentially a measure of how volume is on an intraday basis, and it color codes it. This one's pretty famous. Dan Zanger came up with this indicator, and we imported that logic to make it an indicator in our platforms. You want to check this out on intraday charts to see a real time. Now, the other data points that we have are also real time, the relative volume and the run rate, which you could add to your data panel. You could add as a column. You could scan for them as well, and also have them in the columns for your watch list. So many questions. Let's see. Can you import a list of stock symbols in the watch list? Yes, you can import. So there's a lot of confusion on importing things into Deepvue. So all you have to do is click this plus and you just paste in the symbols that are in your clipboard. So if you have a CSV that another platform gave you, you just copy the symbol of that, just Control C, Command C, whatever you're on, select right click copy, and you just paste them in this add new symbol. And that's it. It will auto recognize which symbols you put into the platform, and then you just click add. It's as simple as that. We didn't want to do file uploads and take one file and we give you another file and all of that. All you're doing is copying the symbol column of whichever file you're trying to import and just paste it here and it'll auto recognize the symbols. So it's really as easy as that. Okay. Answered some of these. Would be nice to have text above the volume bars. We will get that done relatively soon. How do you explain run rate? That's a good question. So run rate is really important when it comes to swing trading. So let's say I define a pivot for a particular stock to be, let's say this 25, right? 25 area. Now, some people like to trade based on volume. So as price goes above 25, and this is how I learned as well, was when price goes above 25, you want to look at relative volume. And relative volume is defined as time of day relative volume. Now, there's two components to that. Time of day relative volume, what it does is it says volume at this very moment, right? From 9:30, which is the open in the United States, to 11 a.m. Let's say 11 a.m., we get that trigger above. What was the average volume at 11 a.m. over the last 20 days or last 50 days? And we calculate that and give you a number. If volume is running ahead for, at 11 a.m. compared to every other day over the last 20 or 50 days at 11 a.m., that's high relative volume or high run rate or what people call volume buzz, right? And that's the calculate. So time of day relative volume was made, I think, really famous by Dan Zanger. It's his concept, and people call it run rate, relative volume, buzzes, and things of that nature. But that's essentially what it is. There are other variations of volume. It could be a simple, how is the volume today versus the average volume? That's different than run rate or relative volume. So you don't want to mix those up. Will Deepvue continue to use TradingView? No. That's a short answer. We will have our own charting module very soon. Okay. How do we display pre-post market data on the charts? All you do is you go to an intraday chart, you go to the chart settings on the very right, and you could click sessions and you turn on extended sessions. That's one way to do it. The second way to do it, you right click and you go to settings. And then you click sessions right here under symbol. You'll have sessions and you go to regular or extended market. And then you could give your, define your backgrounds and then press OK. And if I go to regular, that data will go away. Now I only see regular on a 5-minute. And if I change it to extended, you'll see extended market as well. In the future, will there be the ability to edit screens on mobile? Yes, that will exist. What we want to do is we may not add the ability to create new screens on mobile. I think not many people will be using that. So we kind of want to stay away from that. But when we have nothing else to do, we will implement both creating a new screen, but edit screen will be done first for sure. Okay. What do you think about sector industry rank on a 1-month versus 3-month basis? So I tend to, from a swing trading perspective, I think 6-month and 3-month are really good indications of where you want to be in terms of sector ranking. If you're a position trader, 12-month and 9 months are more applicable because you want to see longer trends and you're in it for a longer period of time. You're probably using the weekly chart more than the daily chart if you're a position trader, whereas if you're a swing trader, you're in that 1 to 3 month time span, but some of those trades turn into position trades as well. So swing traders 1 3-month, position traders 9 and 12-month. The sector rankings are all available in the data panel right here. So if you want to add sector rankings, you just click settings, you type in the word rank, and you add any of these ranks. So I've added the sub-industry 1 month and the 3-month to my data panel. And when you click, when you click this sub-industry 1 month, you could see the rankings that are available here. So we have, sub-industry ranking from 1 out of 164 and the number of stocks in each of those sub-industries. So that's available for you guys. Okay. We don't have the ability to write custom indicators. We will have that in the future when we introduce Deepvue charts. Okay. Can we screen among a list of stocks instead of a whole market? Yes, you can. Obviously, you could define the universe that you want to operate within. You could also, we'll soon have watch lists available here. So you can define which watch list you want to scan within as well. Is it possible to show time since new stock was added to a screener as a column? That's a good idea. We've been thinking of that as well. That's something we will do. Do we have moving averages on multi-charts? We don't have that just yet. We will have that in the near future. Again, great question. That's something we want to be doing. Could you describe the Zenger volume ratio? I would say Google it. Zenger volume ratio, Deepvue. We have, I think, a full article on that, on how to configure it, how to use it, how it's calculated. And if you just Google Zenger volume ratio, you'll also find a lot of resources. Can columns be included while exporting to Excel? We've deliberately turned that off in order for us to give customers the most amount of data for a very low price and continue to be, a high quality product. The deals that we have in place limit us to symbols, but it allows us to give you all the other, data points within the platform. We just don't allow the export of them. Okay, a lot of repetitive questions. What is the ultimate goal of developing Deepvue? The ultimate goal of developing Deepvue is for you to get the information that you need for a company from a technical or fundamental perspective all in one place without going anywhere else. So that's really the gist of what we were trying to accomplish. That could be news, that could be short float, that could be any fundamental from a cash flow, balance sheet perspective that you could possibly think of. For you to come in, we'll have, specialized, we want to have specialized swing trading strategies that you scan for, like Stan Weinstein's that we have, or RMV, or finding tight stocks or VCPs. So the bigger goal is to have all the data in one place. The granular goal is from a swing trading, position trading, and day trading perspective to have really specific, data points that cater to that audience. So that's the ultimate goal. How do I change or know the time frame in multi-chart? So multi-charts, if you toggle it, you go to mini chart settings. When you pull up mini chart settings, you will have this drop down for 1, 3, and you could choose any time frame that you like. So if I pick the daily time frame, all my charts are daily. So, and if I pick weekly, all my charts are weekly. So that is, I'll do that again. Maybe I went a little bit fast. So you go to mini charts, you click mini chart settings, a pop-up comes out, and you get to choose the time frame, the data point that you want to sort by, the type of chart that you want. Some people want line charts, bar charts, candlesticks. Those are all doable. When will we be able to trade within the Deepvue platform? Probably next year. Can I automatically create a list as a report and email? That's something we're actually extensively looking at. That's something we want to do for, you could pick a list of screens that you want to receive through email or something of that nature, or at least the top 10 for each. That's something we're looking to do in our planning as well. Can you fix so we can scroll the stats table like we can the data panel? There is a scroll bar at the bottom of your data panel that you could use. You could use the scroll wheel of your mouse to scroll back and forth if your mouse is over it. But we do have this scroll bar that should be showing on your browser. If it isn't, please do submit it to the team and we'll take care of that. Thanks so much. Okay. Is short percentage and days to cover available? It's not available right now, but it will be available later on in the year. When will stock specific news be integrated? After we integrate fundamental data, likely early next year, we'll introduce news for ticker-based news. That will be available next year, Q1. Can I get 2 different tickers on 2 charts at the same time? Great question. Yes, you can. So if you go to the dashboard module that we have, that's completely separate from some of these other modules that we have. The purpose we built dashboard is to give you the full flexibility of creating anything that you could possibly think of in terms of layout and config. So if we create a new dashboard, if I'll go ahead and create a new dashboard, we'll call it new. It gives you a playground, like a sandbox, to drag in any number of charts, any number of watch lists, and any number of screeners that you like. And you could place them in any orientation that you want. So it is possible to get 2 charts, 2 watch lists, or 5 watch lists together. Okay. We'll wrap up pretty soon here. There's hundreds of questions. which I will probably not get to all of them. I do want to focus on back to swing trading and how I've laid out my dashboards a little bit before we wrap it up. So I have two dashboards that I tend to use. One of them is for daily screens, and the daily screens that I run are the ones that I just went through. So the high volume, the absolute strength 1 month, the tight range, and the liquidity. At the bottom, I have a stats table to give me a fundamental perspective of the names I'm looking at. And then on the left, I have a giant chart, which I usually keep on the daily with the moving averages of 10, 21, and 50. 10 being green, 21 being orange, and the 50 being red. I keep them stacked in this manner. So it's a traffic light system. Basically, if a stock is above the green, I know it's trending. I'm a little more cautious around the 21 day. I have the relative strength line at the very top. So if you add DV relative strength at the very top with a 21-day moving average, if it's above it or below it, so if it's above it, it's performing well. If it's below it, it's not. The four screeners that I have are up and live. So as new results come in throughout the day, these screeners update real time. And I tend to go through these just to get a feel for the market or prepare for the next day as well. So that's what I have for my daily screens. We don't have the capability to share dashboards just yet. When we do, I will share that link. The second one that I have is the market open. The market open on the right side, it has my watch list. So I have the focus list, my HV watch list, the IPO watch list, the markets. This gives me a clear picture of what's going on in the markets, and the HTF watch list as well. At the bottom, I have Universe. Universe is all the symbols and all my other watch lists in one list. That is available here. And that's when the market opens, I'm focused on my focus list. And I usually, pay close attention to what IPOs are doing or what HVs are doing as well. So that's the other layout that I have as part of the dashboard. This is how I swing. Like this is the screen for the most part I have up when the market's active. This is when I'm doing my daily routine, I go to this dashboard, run through whatever I need to, and then when the market's open, I go to that. I do have a few others. In terms of heat map, this just gives me a picture of what's going on. I like to connect my watch list to this more than screening. It just gives me a really good perspective of what happened on the HV list, what happened on my focus list, things like that. So if I go to HV, this gives me a clear picture of what outperformed on HVs, etc. I can connect it to charts as well. Sometimes I, half this out, bring in a chart, and then have the chart talk to my heat map because they're part of the same group. And when I click this, I'll usually have it on my daily. And let's make this big, right? Something like that. And then when I click each of these, the chart updates as well. So that way, as part of my HV list, I can review it this way as well. The other one is breadth. This one tells me, what is going well in the markets in terms of ETFs, which themes are working in the markets on a 1-day basis. So I put a price percent change on that. And then I have a similar one for my weekend routine. My weekend routine is the scans that I run on the weekends from a swing trading perspective as a swing trader. What am I looking at? What are things that and the idea of this is maybe we'll go over it in another call on how I set these up as well. So these are some of the dashboards that I have. I encourage you guys to kind of, I would say at the very least have a market open dashboard, have a daily routine dashboard, a weekend routine dashboard, right? Those are your basics. You really want to have a daily routine and a weekend routine, and then a market open where you just focused on what's on my focus list, what's my universe of stocks, what are they doing in the markets. Okay. Let's answer some of the questions from people that I haven't heard from. A lot of the same people asking. I just don't want anybody to feel left out. And then we'll wrap this up for today. Is there a plan to integrate brokers and execute and manage? I already answered that. Yes, there are plans to do that next year, not this year. This year we have a really good roadmap in place. We want to execute that to the best of our ability before we get into trading within Deepvue. Is there a way to add a data panel to the dashboard? There will be a way to add a data panel to the dashboard next week. We're releasing that. It's in QA and it will be released next week. I feel left out. I feel left out. How can you use dual screens or two monitors? We allow up to 3 tabs of Deepvue to be open at the same time. We'll give you 3 connections. So you can have 3 dashboards up on 3 different screens if you like. You'll maintain that connection. We have been thinking of making all of these pop out and into individual windows. Sometimes that could get messy, but that's something that we do want to support in the future. Is there a way to direct link process available to export tickers from Market Surge to Deepvue? One, by the end of this year, you won't need Market Surge to import things to Deepvue because we're including every single fundamental data point that's available under the sun. Second, that's our biggest, when we get compared to Market Surge, that's the biggest pitfall that we have is we don't have all the fundamentals, which we will. We just signed a deal with S&P Global, so we'll have all those data points and every fundamental data point that you could possibly think of available within Deepvue. So if that is one of the reasons why you still have Market Surge, you won't have that excuse by the end of this year, guaranteed. Perfect. Now you're amazing. Just want to let you know that you can get the affordable price. I would have done. Awesome. Good to hear that you have done 90% of the UTG. Do check out the UTC, which is the Ultimate Trading Course. That's something that I have that educates traders on the very basics of how to build process, how to build routines, how to go through the markets, and really build a business. Treat your trading like a business as well. Canadian stocks soon. Yes, Canadian stocks will be added soon, but we'll go to India first, and then we'll come back to North America, then go to Germany and those areas next year. Pop-up would be a great option. I agree. Could we have a percent change above moving averages histogram indicator? Let's see. I think that already exists. So if I go percent from SMA or EMA, you want to look for, Eric, you want to look for DV dash percent from SMA / EMA. And this is configurable. So if I go to settings, you can set the MA that you're interested in. I remember looking at this a while ago. You could set the source. Usually you want to use close, and you could set your extensions as well. 5% above, 10% above, 20% above, 100% above the 200-day is usually a good measure of a stock that tops out and goes into a larger base. So if I set this to 200-day, extension 3 is 100% above the 200-day. It will give you that. You could go under styles and set the colors whichever way you like. So that exists as a indicator, and it's also a histogram. So you could change that histogram to a line. I don't know why you want to do that, but there's many different plot types as well. Are you going to include a tool to track ranking industry movements? For example, industries? Yes, that's the next step to our data panel, is to show what's moving up really fast and what's moving down really fast. We will add these arrows, which will be well-defined definitions of what they mean when they show up. So we'll have a single arrow, a double arrow, and a triple arrow, right? Stacked up on top. Triple means it's moving up really fast. Double means it went up a couple levels versus the prior update. So yes, that is being planned, and that will be in the data panel. That should be this year too, in Q4. Is it possible to project pivot points for tomorrow after the market's closed? Just like, yeah, we've been looking at that. Let me follow up on pivot points. Oliver Kell. We had a conversation on that internally. Yeah, we'll make that happen. I'll circle back, Henry, with you a little bit later today on that. Okay, we've already Answered that. Can you share a dashboard link? That's not doable at the moment. We will enable that. For now, we have it hidden on purpose. Alerts on indicators. Alerts on indicators. We don't have those just yet. I think we have a lot of catching up to do in terms of our alerts module. There's a idea by someone earlier in the webinar already about when new things are added to my screener or my watch list or my screeners, I want an alert on that. I think we have a lot of work to do, and including uh, setting alerts on indicators. Can you make the symbol stand out better or larger size or color? Yes, you can make the symbol stand out on the charts using the watermark feature. So if you go to Canvas and you go to watermark, you have that. And I think you could increase the text scale as well. So if I want to make this 28, I can make them really, really huge. If that's your question, I hope I answered that. I think the default text size that we have for watermarks is 12, but we can maybe increase that to 14 too. Okay, there's a lot of duplicates, so we'll continue dismissing those. Already answered that. What's your sell rule? Really good question. So I have two types of sell rules when it comes to my swing trading. One is 2 closes below the 21 day is my out. If a stock's price, if my the price that I own the stock at, if the 21 day is above the price, my average price that I own the stock at, I use 2 closes below the 21 day. In terms of the other sell rule is usually versus prior day's low or no more than 3%. And those are, if I'm down 3% or more on the position, what it means is that my anticipation of what I was thinking the stock is going to do has not happened, and it's time for me to get out. So I cap, my losses. If the stock's not going in the direction that I want it to go, I cut my loss, right? That could be prior days low, no more than 3%, type of thing. So, okay, some of you have pasted things twice. Are you considering adding fair market value gaps? I would like to identify FVGs like, okay, let me write that down. That's the second time I've heard of fair value gaps. We'll take a look at it. It would be awesome if you could submit it as a feature request at the bottom left. You click the help menu, and you go to roadmap and you request it. That way we have a record of someone requesting it, and we merge all these similar requests and we have a process for that so that we can see how many people are requesting the same thing, and then we prioritize that. But if it's doable elsewhere, it's definitely doable in Deepvue. Okay. Are you able to filter stocks whether stocks have options and liquidity of the options? No, that does not exist at the moment, but it will exist as we integrate more S&P data. That's something that's definitely will be added because we'll have that now if a stock has options or it doesn't. In terms of the liquidity of the options, I will have to double check on that to see if we have that data right away. But the first, if it's optionable or not, is definitely on the table of things to include into our screener. Okay, I'm trying to catch up, but there's more and more questions. A lot of you have pasted things twice or 3 times. Is there a RS filter that aligns with IBD and MarketSmith? Yes, we have the RS on a 1, 3, 6, 9, and 12-month basis. The one that you're probably looking for when it comes to aligning with MarketSmith or MarketSurge is the RS 12-month. That's the one that they usually market pitch and really push. That's the one you probably want to be looking for. That will align most with the 12-month. We've included 1, 3, 6, and 9 because people have different trading styles, and we don't really want to force one trading style on. That's not the purpose of our platform. So that's why we've included these different time frames as well. Do you have anything to determine whether to enter trades or sit out on your hands? Breadth indicators like new high, new lows. Yes. So we have breadth indicators. If you type in SA, you'll see stocks above 40 MA, 50 MA, and 200. We will have more indicators. One of the things that we're adding likely next week is going to be called Deepvue market cycle as an indicator in your drop downs. And that will be based on the market cycle definition that we have. If you're not aware, that we did under the Ultimate Trading Guide, we're codifying that to bring it into the platform. So that will be available next week as well. That's also, it will give you a clear picture on if you should be participating or if you shouldn't be participating in the market. So that will be available relatively soon as well. In terms of hundreds of breadth indicators that people use, like trend and things of that nature, those will also come into the platform, but we'll first integrate fundamental data. That's our biggest focus internally. Okay. Go through DVL35, please. Let's go through the Deepvue leaders screen. So if I go to screen of presets, Deepvue leaders, this screen was created by Richard. If you go through some of these criteria, let's just go through them. So the first bucket that we have is, again, liquidity, right? Average dollar volume, 20-day. You want liquid stocks, and your universe or your leaders should be very liquid. Second, he wants the average range of those leaders to be greater than 2%. So the volatility on a per day basis on those names is greater than 2% on a 10-day basis. He's filtered out for common stocks and ADRs. The second is all stocks should have a price of 12.5 or more and the market cap of a billion or more. The second criteria, the other criteria, so any of these can be true for the stock to make it to the screen. So this absolute strength looks for, give me over the last 1 month, that's how I read it. Over the last 1 month, give me the stocks that are in the top 15% in terms of performance. When you say greater than 85, it's essentially saying in the top 15%. On a 3-month basis, give me stocks that are in the top 15% in terms of price performance in the market. And on a 1-week basis, give me the top 10%. And if any of, if a stock meets any of these criteria, I want to have it on my screen. That's what the OR group represents. So the second criteria is give me stocks that have increasing earnings, have a sales surprise, have a EPS surprise. That's this bucket. Show me stocks that have reported sales of 100 million or more. So fundamentally, they're really sound stocks. So if a company is making 10 million a quarter, that's usually not a leader, or it's very early for us to call it a leader. So we have that 100 million in terms of the sales reported over the last year and 25 million in terms of that quarter. And then the last one he's put in here is their young stocks. So they have IPO'd recently over the last year. And they have a 200-day SMA that is higher than the 200 SMA a month ago. What that basically means is these stocks on a 200-day basis are in an uptrend. So that's the last grade. So a lot of these characteristics, when you combine them together, these buckets that we put together represent stocks that, a leadership in the past, or what we call model book stocks have shown in the past. We combine those to create the Deepvue leaders screen. So I hope that was helpful in terms of the thought process that kind of went into creating Deepvue leaders. Okay, I answered that. So we're close. Is it possible to backtest? Backtesting will be next year. RRG, there's a couple of questions on RRG. That will be included next year. We have to, I think, get a license for that before we could do that. Canadian stocks soon, yes. S&P data is now being actively integrated into the platform, so you'll start to see something, I would say, 3-ish weeks from today. Backtest again. Can I scan for... Okay. Let's start. Crosshair. Okay, that's a great question. So there's a question on charts and how to see crosshairs on multiple charts. So if I have 3 different time frames up, let's say I have this, and the 5-minute, and I want to sync the crosshair. So there's a setting called crosshair, which you want to turn on. So you click this layout setup. It will bring this drop down. You go to crosshair and you turn that on. So now when I am on my 65-minute chart, you will see the same crosshair on the daily and it's all synced up, right? So that's how you set that up, Henry. Dark pool data will be also next year. We have the data, but we just haven't created something. Is there a plan to implement automated base detection? Yes, there is, but that will be part of the Deepvue module, Deepvue charts when we introduce them. Yeah, pattern rec is likely next year. Thanks so much, Mike. Deepvue team is the best. Thank you. Right. Okay. Is it possible to do the bars fatter like TC2000? To thin now for me is getting tired for my eyes. Yes, these are some of the limitations with our existing charting module. We will introduce our own chart. We'll get into that game, but we're kind of building it in the background. We don't want to switch folks over to something that is not fully complete yet or on par with TC2000 and TradingView. That's something we're gradually working towards, and this will be part of, getting fatter bars. This is in reference to a lot of folks that use these bars. They want them to be thick even if you're super zoomed out. This is not a great way to look at them because it gets really tiring. You really have to zoom in. So when we have those, we will. This is one of the things that Richard internally has requested too. Is there a way to find industry groups performing relative to others, something similar? Yes, there is. So I've gone through this a couple of times now. We'll have a video out on it probably this weekend. So what you want to do is you add the sub-industry rank to your data panel. To activate the data panel, you click this button right here at the top. If I disable it, it goes away, enable it, comes in. You go to settings and you just type in rank. And we have all sorts of ranks. You add the rank that you like and you want to see. And when you add that, you click it and you see a drop down. So these are the ranks. So home building is one with 28 stocks in it. So if I want to go through home builders, I just click home building and these are all the home builders that are in our database, right? If I click forest products or independent, power producers, real estate companies. So these are the top on a 3-month sub-industry basis. And we have ranking, we have sector ranking, group ranking, industry and sub-industry rankings that are available in the platform now. Okay. Futures data will be later on. It's part of the roadmap. It's just time will heal all type of thing. Can you see before, during market on one screen, or you have to turn them on and look at them separately? You can run multiple screens when you just go to the dashboard module, create screens for pre and post market, and you can have a pre and post market dashboard that you build, and you can have multiple screens up to 8 on the same dashboard if you like, up at the same time, all real time. So the screener module gives you ability to see one screen, one chart, one data panel, one stats table. The dashboard module allows you to see multiple screens, multiple charts, multiple data panels, and multiple dashboards. This is where you want to be if you want a highly customizable experience. you want to go to the dashboard and create a dashboard for pre-market and post-market as well. Okay. We can't screen for RSI just yet. That's part of the plans. We want to get the formula builder out first. Before we get the formula builder out, and then it will enable you to create your own RSI indicator or screen for it as well. Okay. Trade. I've answered that. So we're down a couple of questions. I've answered this. I've answered that. Please include entry exit criteria for stage and VCP base entry for position trading growth. So I think I covered that earlier today. How to show MAs on mini charts. We don't have that capability yet. We will very soon. Can we show the angle of the moving average? I want to scan for 45. So we're adding slope as slope of MAs as a data point next week. What that will allow you to do is to scan for a flattening moving average or a moving average that has an uptrend or a downtrend. So we will allow you to scan for slope, and then you can determine kind of what's 45 and things of that nature, right? So if a slope is 0, that means the stock has a flattening moving average. So that is coming as a data point next week. That was filed a couple of days ago. When will we be able to scan different time frames like hourly, for example? With the formula builder, we will enable you to scan for the times for the time frame that you want. So you'll be able to mix up and say daily SMA, daily 50 prices greater than the 50 SMA on the daily, and prices greater than the 11 SMA on the weekly, and prices greater than the 10 MA on a 15-minute. So you'll be able to do that with the formula. That will be later this year, Q4. Can you, okay, RRG again. Okay, so it looks like I've answered over 76 questions. So we'll pause there. If you guys have any follow-up questions as you see these, see this video, you make it to the end, pop the questions in the comments of the YouTube video, or if you see it on X, you could ask questions there. We have a great support team that's always willing to help you guys out. If you're not on the platform, I highly recommend you check it out. We have a 2-month for, I think, $39.49. Don't quote me on that, but offer for you to try the platform for two months, see if it's something that you like. We have a really killer roadmap for Q4. There's a lot of things that we're doing, but that starts with high data integration focus for Q4, and then a lot of new features in Q1 next year. So with that, if you guys ever have any questions, concerns, feel free to reach out. I hope this was helpful. Any questions can go in the comments of the video, be emailed out to our support, and everybody's really willing to help. So I wish you guys a good weekend.